everyone, and welcome to another Disclosure in the Media, or with Ryan pulling cards again. Uh,
Hey,
and we are doing a very unique, brand new game. I'll let Ryan go into it here in a minute when we open the circle. But this is you're gonna actually love the way this plays out with what we've already been talking about in both GIC and the lifting and even conspiracy sector, respectively. So I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. Today's episode was filmed on 4/21/24. So, Ryan, go for it.
okay, welcome to the show, everybody. Today we'll be talking about Helldivers, the new game series that's sweeping the gaming world, and rightly so, because it's just a wonderful series. Um, and it is competitive, not against each other, but against basically a game master who runs the entire thing. And it's set up where you and your squad, who are up to three other players, as well as the other Helldiver teams all over the world, are dropping from orbit onto different planets to fight against the to fight in the name of democracy for Super Earth. And so basically, you start on a ship and you get in these things called hell pods, and they drop down to the planet's surface. Then you're like you like kind of raise up out of them, and you have a mission to finish while within a certain amount of time, and then you have to get to the extraction and get out. The entire time you're either fighting one of a few factions that we will go into later in the video, but here you can see is a group of hell divers. They're basically Super Earth's elite soldiers, special forces kind of guys, and they have you set up your equipment and stuff. You drop in, you pick your special like call-ins, which are like called stratagems, and you can use they. Some of them are like drop a bomb. Some of them are like call in a mech suit. Some of them are like call in a special weapon. That kind of stuff. There's resupply ones like that. So here you can see these Helldivers are engaged against a large like insect faction called the Terminids. We'll get into them a bit more in a bit, but here's a bunch of the different Terminid types, as well as the new Shriekers, which are a new type of bug that can fly. But here we go. We'll start with Super Earth. So Super Earth is what happens after a major war. And it's very strange. So Super Earth, there was a major war between like all the modern major powers. All these places that are like yellow are like nuclear wastelands after. The
Hmm.
places in red are like rainforest and like nature preserve areas where it's restricted access for people. And then after this major war, Sweden takes over the world. And that's why like Stockholm is Prosperity City. Uh, Belgium is Mega City 4. Jerusalem is Mega City 5. I believe that's Shanghai, and then that is I don't know what city that is. Maybe maybe that might be in Singapore. I believe
Oh.
that is Rio, and then that is New York City. And those are the seven sectors of the world. Yellowstone National Park was renamed Superstone National Park, and there's a few little like secret things to, and it's basically a one world government run by the Swedes.
That's
Uh,
interesting.
it is quite. They like to spout that they're a democracy, but it's quite clear that they're more of like a fascist state that likes to hide behind the facade of democracy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like the propaganda reel said, well, which I'll put at the end of the video, controlled democracy around the galaxy kind of thing. And this is
yes,
essentially supposed to be World War III. Yeah.
whenever you drop in, they're like you're spreading managed democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and managed democracy to me just means fascism because it's like
Yep.
democracy, but they're guiding your choice. Oh well, that. that should be for the end. Okay, so here are the hell pods. So you'll launch out of your carrier and drop in this in down into orbit, and that's like a cool little cutscene that plays every time you drop out of a ship to a mission. So the Helldivers fight the Terminids initially, and if you start the game, I highly recommend to understand the game itself. You fight the Terminids first, because they're generally considered the easier faction to fight, except for on very hard difficulties where it's just chaos when you fight them. But on like the earlier game stuff, the Terminids are meant to be like play against us first and get a feeling for this game. Um, so the Terminids, there's different types, and we'll go into those in a bit, but they're essentially a strange like insect virus thing because they have spores that they can use to like hide out areas. But we also think now the spores are what are actually spreading them from planet to planet. The spores get on a ship and then they like kind of set up in the local at like the local flora and fauna and breed terminids.
Mm.
Um, the other theory, which is more insidious, is that Super Earth as a means of having a fuel source because Super Earth uses these things as a fuel source, are spreading them and having the Helldivers dive to kill them, just to like allowing outbreaks of these things so that then they can use them as a fuel source.
Essentially a false flag to go after more fuel source. Yeah, like any war. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these things are not sentient really; they're just like a hive mind. So the idea is though that the government is either spreading them or they spread through these spores. Um, and that they're being used as a fuel. And like anytime that there's a major like so you have like a major campaign on the one front of this galactic war, and I'll show it off in the gameplay section how they show off the fronts and stuff. You'll have a major campaign end on the one front of the war, and then you go to the Terminid front, and the major order from high command will be like take out a bunch of bugs to replenish our fuel.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that's why like there's this theory that the government's actually doing it to like have a farmable fuel source.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the Terminids have multiple types. There is one more that I will have to add on at the end because they were not yet released when this list came out. But this is a good start. So you have the tiny ones. They're scavengers, they melee, and there's the ones that have the neon green will spit acid. Um, There's also small ones that are white in color, kind of like this hunter thing that can like jump. Uh, there's usually a lot of them, but they'll die in like one or two shots from like one shot of the better weapons, two shots of the weakest weapons. Uh, you can there's even this new rifle in the game that's like an explode, like it shoots and then the bullet explodes, and you can take out a bunch of them with one shot. The next size up is the warrior. They're medium sized brood commanders, so they're just small. They're basically a smaller version of this thing. They can survive for a time without a head, not like a cockroach, like not days, but like they can like if you take out their head and they're like gonna hit you, they're still gonna hit you.
Mm.
They're a bit bigger. They're about the size of they're a bit bigger than a person if they were like laying down. The
Mm.
hunters, these things are one of the most annoying things in this game. They can jump at you from range, and then they have like a tongue attack and a slicing attack that they do in tandem. And the tongue attack slows you down, and you have to basically dive onto the ground to remove that negative effect and hope they don't get you in that time. But if there's a bunch of these and you're not like a very experienced player, you're going to die. Spewers are also really annoying. So the nursing spewer is the weaker yellow variant of the spewer, and they're the ones that have a giant bulb on the ass end. Um, Both of them spit an acidic substance. Bile spewers spew like the neon green like acid.
Mm.
Nursing spewers spit like a yellow acidic substance that's not as strong. Nurse bile spewers are also armored, so shoot in the head to immediately kill them if you have an armor piercing weapon. If you did not have an armor piercing weapon, you want to shoot that bulb in the back and then they explode. They can take out their own allies as well. One of the funny things about this game is everything has friendly fire on, so if you drop an airstrike on an area and your friends are in that area, they're going to die too, which can be very fun when you want to mess with your friends. But these spewers, I've actually seen the spewers take out smaller enemies because they get caught in the acid attack.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, then you have the Brood Commander, which is just like a bigger, faster version of this thing. It just moves and it like moves weird. Um, it almost like moves in like a hypnotic dance, kind of like a praying mantis does. Uh, and then yeah, you shoot its head, it's gonna still charge you a bit. It'll also do this charge thing where it'll charge at you, and if you jump out of the way, you're fine. If it hits you, you're gonna get like thrown back. Um, yeah, I mean, focus on the legs or just take it out in the head if you have a good weapon. They're not hard to defeat if you know what you're doing. But on lower level difficulty missions, and when you're like early in the game, this is the boss for your mission. Hive Guardians, these things are heavily armored, and you're basically, unless you have an explosive weapon or a very high armor piercing weapon, this thing you're gonna want to shoot it like the joints and like underneath it, and it basically is gonna guard littler ones behind it and try to like corner you. Uh, Otherwise, they're relatively easy to destroy. If you once you get to about level 20, these things are a non-threat because you have weapons that can like break their armor easily. The Stalker. These things are the most annoying enemy in the game. They're a level up version of the Hunter, and they are fast. They will actively hunt players and can go invisible, but their invisibility you can still see them. It's like more of like a cloaking thing where like you can still like make out their outline when they move. But they're fast, they're hard to do. You cannot outrun them, so you have to kill them. And they will continuously spawn as long as you're within a certain radius of their lair, until you destroy their lair.
Oh.
And usually the mission objective is next to their lair. So so their lair is like something you want to search for.
Oh, okay.
But you'll get an idea of where their lair is because they're gonna keep coming from there. They can only spawn in their lair. But they will hunt you out as long as you're in a certain radius of it.
Okay.
They're destroying their lairs are also a side objective on any mission where they're present. So you'll get extra XP and stuff for doing it. The Charger. So there's the Bull Chargers, which is what this one is with like a rhino horn type growth, and then there's the other Chargers which don't have that but look very similar, just less armored. These guys are basically a rhino. They will just charge you, as their name implies, and they're quite fast. They're quite aggressive. They are the bane of inexperienced teams because they will cause chaos, and then all these other things are attacking you at the same time. So, yeah, recently there's some new weapons in the game that makes taking these guys out easier. But if you're in the early game and you run into one of these, you want to either just call in like an airstrike and take it out, or you want to have a heavy weapon, take off the armor on the legs, and then shoot their legs interior. That's their weak point.
Mm.
Um, but if you have the Quasar rifle, which I'll show off in a bit, if you a headshot from that will just take off their head and they'll die. The Bile Titan is sort of the big boss of the Terminids and is huge. It's bigger than like anything else in the game, size wise, except for this new enemy that we'll talk about on the automaton front when we get there. These guys will spit that bile. They can move faster than you because well you can outrun them, but they need to be distracted for you to outrun them. Um, they are fast. Basically, the way I take these guys out is I either call in an orbital strike or I call in a nuke, basically, to drop like next to them. And only sometimes does that work.
No.
Otherwise, you're just going to keep hitting these guys with heavy explosives until they go down. These
Okay.
guys are higher level difficulty bosses that you take out, and on the highest level difficulties, they just show up. And sometimes there are two or three of them at the same time, and it's utter chaos.
Oh God. Yeah, which I find interesting about this game is Joanna and I have been looking into the propaganda surrounding the fake alien invasion. They started this with Starship Troopers years ago, and they've been purporting this on some of the networks out there, trying to this other fake alien invasion is kind of the regurgitation of like Armageddon and the Thousand Years of Peace Christian narrative. What is going on with this is in the beginning where you showed the map and you said Sweden ruled the world. What I find interesting is that's a cabal center right now, big cabal center. And if people look into the Amadeus Denoc material, the time travel material, Y-Files actually covered that quite extensively in one of their episodes as well. Sweden also rules the planet in a later years and forms a one world government. Now, in the fake alien invasion narrative, you have World War III, then you have the fake alien invasion taking place during World War III. This is essentially pretty close in this game. Also, you have obviously nuclear fallout in places as well. This is also part of that narrative. The bugs, which I find very interesting, the bug varieties, and they have them spit, and all this other stuff, and have different ones that jump and the different ones that. The spit that comes from it is also this green concoction that will actually slow down someone's energy core. If the bug is say in a different frequency, they will slow down the energy core. If they're here, it would kill someone. The bug thing. This is a Martian German line of propaganda that is going on because the whole premise of the fake alien invasion is you would cull certain societies down. You would form a one world government that would be under one world rule. It would be Sweden, and it would actually unite everybody under one banner forcibly because the whole premise is you would have one or two choices available to you. Either, I've heard some insiders say be pro Terran or pro invader. If you're confronted with that, all other prejudices fall away, which that still means a lot of people die. It's a major line of propaganda bullcrap that's going on right now. But this is interesting. They've integrated this into this whole sequence. Now, I have other Witcher recordings I'm going to put up later about different insectoid types that are very similar to this, like the one with the giant butt, the spewer. This one was actually famous in some New England mythology. If anybody's ever heard of the Blair Witch Project, crapola, the the premise behind that was there was a little girl that was actually a psychic that the Puritans of the day, basically thought she was the devil, but that whole bit. Uh, put her out in the winter, tried to crucify her, all this other stuff. She curses them, and that's the curse of the Blair Witch. What ended up happening is kids were disappearing. There was a spider crustacean like entity that would come out of the sea once every period, kind of like a cicada once every. It was like once every 7 years type of thing, but this was every like couple centuries or something like that. The Native Americans knew enough to stay away from this thing. This would then gather certain hemoglobin, like a vampire, or like certain energy, like essentially like a vampire. And this is where the dead kids came up in that whole lore. They tried to make up the rest of the lore to cover up for this, but every few centuries or so, something like this comes out of the ocean. It's like a gigantic cicada, is essentially what it is. And I don't think there's any of them left personally, uh, but except in other frequencies, other timelines, and whatnot. I went into that more in depth on the Witcher recordings. Just know that when this entity would spread the bodies out, it would spread them out in like a circle. The homeless person they said in that mythology that was doing the witch's bidding, it was actually a mental psychic projection of this entity forming that woman. Tried to get the villagers to originally convinced that it was a person and not it. Entities do this a lot. They'll set someone up as a scapegoat. But long story short, Martian Germans, they ran simulations on how to run the fake alien invasion, get people to hate other alien types other than other humans, get them to force unite under one banner instead of an organic world unity. We've said this on GIC episodes as well. There's a difference between a forced one and an organic one. That takes longer. This is that type of propaganda in a nutshell. And when you hear insiders talking about this, either they are being tricked or they are doing the tricking. So this is, I love how this came out right at this time because it is basically spelling out the narrative. So, like, nearly verbatim. I mean, there's the propaganda surrounding that. I will put at the end of the show. I will put the propaganda video that I found funny. I found it hilarious. So I'll put that at the end in the edit, and it's actually pretty good. So didn't mean to interrupt Ryan, but I knew I had to get that out. So yeah.
And then there is one newer form of bug called the Shrieker, and it's basically this like they have a nest, to sort of like the stalkers. You take out the nest, you take them out. They fly and they'll like dive bomb you. Luckily, there's a few stratagems that you can use to like combat them while they're attacking you, and then an airstrike or two shots from a rocket launcher type weapon will take out their nests. Like they're like a big tree almost of like fungus, and you take out the nests, and then they'll stop spawning. Um, but like a sentry gun or a personal defense sentry will take out the shriekers. So that's just your basic strategy on how to combat these guys. With each type, we'll go into the next faction next, and that is the automatons. So these are kind of the harder enemy group. They're so actually we'll start with this. The automatons were first made on a planet called Cyberstan, which currently is back under automaton control because of the way the war is going. But for the last while, it was under Super Earth control. But the automatons were made by a socialist breakoff of Earth people initially, and they were cyborgs.
Hmm.
And they made these robots with human components as part of their military. Super Earth came back and retook over Cyberstan and destroyed the socialists in the name of managed democracy. And the threat was thought to be destroyed, but instead the automatons moved back into wild space, essentially, like outside of what Super Earth can control. The automatons have now come back in with a vengeance, just like the bugs, and you have various different types. So the automatons, we don't know if the socialist humans are still around controlling them, or if now they're just like a running as like these cyborgs that are self-replicating. Um, but you can see them here. So the littlest ones, again, take them out in a few shots with the average weapon. Good weapons, it's only going to take one or two shots. There's multiple different types. So of the little ones, there's the normal one with like a rifle. There's the MG Raider, which has a machine gun and a and they can like really lay down covering fire. So be careful with them. The Rocket Raider, if this guy hits you with a rocket, you're likely going to die, or you're going to take like half health damage depending on how it hits you. The Assault Raider have a jump pack and a machine gun and will explode on death, so be careful with them. So if they get too close, like dive out of the way when you're shooting them, because they will blow up. The Brawler have two sword hands, and will seek you out and try to cut you down. The Marauder has like a revolver type thing, and then the Trooper usually ride these walkers. Uh, they're numerous but easy to kill, and they'll use cover. Uh, they don't really use cover, but the strategy is use cover and take them out like you would any enemy trying to shoot you with any video game. The commissars, they have a gun and a sword. So they have like a pistol and a sword. They're basically the squad leaders of the little guys. Same strength, health wise and stuff though. But they'll shoot up a flare and it'll call in a drop ship that looks like this, and it will be carrying more troops. The Terminids can do this thing where they'll shoot out like a pheromone and then it'll open like a bug breach and more of them will come. Which
Mm,
I argue the Terminid one is more dangerous because you can shoot down the dropships. You can't close the Terminid breach. You just
mm,
have to kill everything that comes out of it. The Annihilator tanks are generally used to defend bot building heavy fortified facilities. However, they on higher difficulties they can just be patrolling areas as well as be dropped by the dropships. They are easily taken out by with airstrikes or like 500 kilogram bombs or orbital lasers. Or if you have explosives, they have a vent on the back that if you hit with explosive damage, they will blow up. The Scout Strider is basically a two-legged walker that will drop. It's armored in the front and it's got a driver. It's not no armor in the back. So if you can get behind it and you kick out the driver, the whole thing will collapse. You can hit the very top of the driver's head, especially if you're above them. It's easy. Or you can use a heavy armor penetrating weapon like the railgun and just punch right through that front armor and take out the driver, or it'll just destroy the walker and the driver will like get out and try to like charge you with its pistol.
mm,
The brawler, these guys are really annoying because they're an armored up version of the the brawler with like the two swords. These are brawler. They got chainsaw hands and are armored. They're they take a lot of damage, and they can't do much without their arms. They will try to like stomp on you, and if you shoot off their arms, you can kind of let them just keep going and take out other enemies in the way. But they are dangerous. Headshots and the arms are their points where you want to aim with these guys. Devastators. There's three different types. There's a rocket pod one where he's got two big rocket launchers on each shoulder, and he will fire like a barrage of rockets. These guys take out people at distance. They're dangerous. This is the basic Devastator. He's got a cannon on one arm, and it'll try to punch you with the other one. These guys aren't as bad. Hit them in the head a few times and they'll go down. Same thing with the rocket ones. The rocket ones are dangerous, though. Watch out for the rocket ones. And then there's the heavy Devastator that'll have a ballistic shield in one hand and a heavy machine gun on the other. They're also extremely dangerous, and it's because they have a heavy machine gun. They will target one player directly and just like suppressing fire that guy, and you basically can't do much other than hide and then try to hit them with some kind of heavy one-shot weapon. And if that doesn't work, you need to call in like an airstrike or something to take them out because they will continuously fire on you. And that ballistic shield is strong enough to stop most weapons. And then you have the Hulks. There's three different types. The Hulk Bruiser, which is assault rifles, mace mostly. The Hulk Liberator and the Hulk Scorcher. The Hulk Scorcher has a giant chainsaw on one hand and like a flamethrower on the other. These things are terrifying. They're heavily armored. The best way I found to take them out is they have vents on the back, just like the Annihilator tank. Uh, that will weaken them, especially if you've when they're going red and they're heat dispensing. That's when you want to get rid of shoot the vents on the back. It's not always easy. I usually run a rail gun and will put as many shots as I can right on that red eye. And usually after one well placed shot or two decently placed shots will take these guys out. They are extremely dangerous threats. They're fast, they're heavily armored, and they will just destroy a squad if you're not careful. So these two up top, very common. These guys you'll start seeing in like medium level missions, and they're going to be hard. These guys will start in medium level missions. These guys will be bosses in medium to like harder missions. These things will be bosses in hard missions, and then they'll be average enemies in super hard missions.
Okay, yeah. This is actually interesting. This goes along with the transhumanistic propaganda line. They said there was a socialist separatist group. Yeah, that would be a choice some people would go to try to be transhumanistic. This is that on acid, pretty much. Uh, Now, when you said like, say, some of the insectoid type groups, there was like they come out of like an aperture. I've felt this also. People are abducted by insectoid races. Um, you'll feel this pressure change, like a wind blowing behind you, kind of like almost like a pop can opening, like a pressure change, because they are coming out of one space. They're portaling in that maybe have a slightly different pressure, and it would be just exactly like opening a pop can or a pop bottle. It would be the same effect. People feel this like breath or wind when that happens. Dimensional stuff can do the same thing, but also like I said, back to the Martian German types, they sometimes I've seen insectoids be guards. There's even some insiders out there that said insectoids they saw in abduction scenarios as guards. They're hired guns. That's why the Martian Germans wanted to hire them to do the fake alien invasion. They're the hireable kind. There's other insectoid races out there that are good, and then you have the mantid dickheads, which would be like the little ones and the other uh, real. But with this, what was I going to say? Yeah, the I have a picture of a couple of insectoids and a couple of grays in a picture with insectoids flanking them. This shows they're the bodyguards. Other instances, there's insectoids that are geneticists, and people have said that, oh, this one's in charge. That's because you're seeing different races and species and types, like this list. So that's not just one thing. You have antids too, that Isaac tried to show himself as earlier on. That was one of his other expressions, like with the antids that helped the humans in the Great Flood time frame. So you're dealing with a multitude, like a list, a laundry list like this of different ones. That would be a show in and of itself. But that I find very interesting, as all this is even being mentioned, even in a subtle way, is being kind of pointed at in this game. I'm gonna have to go buy this now and try it out. But
The good thing is
as
this is a $40 game too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to get this next chance I get, because this is actually quite interesting. Okay, we can move on. I just wanted to bring that up.
So this is the new enemy in the game, the Factory Strider, and it is automaton's four-legged walker with a heavy cannon on the top and a heavy cannon on the bottom, and smaller machine guns on the sides here. And it will drop these guys. It'll make Devastators every once in a while. They are extremely hard to take down. They will survive a nuke being placed like right underneath them.
Hmm.
The only thing that can instantly take them out is if you find a rogue hell bomb, which is like an actual nuke on the map area, and you get it to walk over it and then shoot the thing and it blows up. But if you call it like an airstrike 500 kilogram bomb, which isn't a nuke, but people call it a nuke for all intents and purposes, it takes like two of those to take it out. It takes multiple airstrikes. It'll take three orbital lasers, which you only get three of them per game, per Helldiver that has that stratagem equipped. So these are the new big boss, and some of the hardest level missions are just take out two of these things. But I heard on the hardest level missions, the Hell Dive missions, which are like level 7 missions are already called suicide missions. Level 8 missions are called impossible missions. Level 9 missions are called hell dives. I've heard on hell dives, these things just get dropped by dropships like regularly,
Hmm.
and you can have 4 or 5 of these on the map at one time.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, they're terrifying. My encounter with one, I died 3 times. Um, I've encountered them a few times since, and each time's gotten easier and easier. Uh, because they're so armored, it's kind of hit or miss. If you get a couple good shots on them with like your stratagems, they'll go down in like two or three. But if it's just skirting the edge of these explosion ranges, it's not going to take much damage at all, and you're going to have to just keep throwing stuff at it until it breaks.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. That's like the walkers in the Star Wars universe, like the big Imperial walkers, the four-legged walkers they took out on Hoth kind of thing, but on acid, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about the new stratagems, all the stratagems that you can call in while in game, because this will go into some of the technology that these guys have. So this doesn't have all of them; it's got most of them. So this is what we'll start with these. So these are the stratagems. in the tier really doesn't matter because they're always getting changed a bit to fit the new meta, essentially. So don't I'll just talk about them from my experience using them. The railgun. The railgun I love using against the bots. You get 20 shots when it drops down, and you can set it in safe mode or unsafe mode. Safe mode, it's not going to do as much damage, but it's not going to explode. Unsafe mode, you charge it beyond its safe limit, but it'll vastly increase the power. But if you hold the charge too long, the whole thing will explode, and either you'll die or you'll be left like no health. It's great against the bots. It's almost useless against the bugs now.
Hmm.
But against the bots, it's my go-to because all my other friends are running a different one that we'll go into that's not on this list, and I'll have to show it off separately. But I love the railgun. The autocannon is also extremely good. I loved using the autocannon when before I had access to the railgun or the other one that I'm about to show off. The autocannon, it's a fully or semi-automatic, basically light rocket launcher. You put these large magazines on a backpack,
Hmm.
and you load 10 shots at once, and you can use them to destroy factories, to build where they build bots. You can use them to destroy the bug holes in hive dens of the bugs. It's extremely good at taking out armored enemies. I have the only thing I've had some problems with it while attacking them is the big hulks. Um, I've never tried using it against that walker that I just showed off. I stopped using it since then. But it's still very viable. I see people using it. There's also a sentry gun that is an autocannon that you can see down here. I've used that on these defend rocket facility thing where there's waves of enemies and you have to defend a rocket thing until the rockets all take off, and that does a great job. The arc thrower has sense, so it's not S tier anymore, in my opinion, but it throws an electric bolt that'll arc between enemies and do a lot of that can do a lot of damage. It's been nerfed in my own personal opinion. And so that it's not as good anymore because now there's better arc weapons that are just in the game. Uh, the shield generator pack, so it's a personal shield bubble, sort of like the droidicas or the destroyer droids, as they're also known in Star Wars, the ones that can like turn into a ball and then they come out and they like
Hmm.
shoot from the prequels. It's a personal shield generator that's on you, and it can take a couple shots. It's good against the bots. I've seen people use it against the bugs, and I guess it can help if you're dealing with bile spewers, like things shooting acid at you. But
Hmm.
I would on the bugs, I like to run the jetpack because if you get caught by like a swarm of them, you can get up above them with the jetpack.
Yeah.
Whereas the shield generator, if it goes down, you're just sitting there. So shield generator, I don't really use it that much, but I have friends that use it all the time. Expandable anti tank. This is your first rocket launcher you're going to get. It's viable through the entire game. You call it down, you get two of them. You can only carry one on your back at any given time, though. So uh, the second one is kind of a teammate can take it if they don't have a back weapon, or you can shoot one and then pick up the other one and run with it. Um, they're good. They're just your basic rocket launcher. They're good for taking out enemies, especially when you're lower level than to get some of the higher end gear. But personally, I didn't use it all that much. I preferred other options. The grenade launcher, same sort of thing. It's just a grenade launcher. It uses like a bunch of grenades that are on like a belt, and you put them in, and it's a grenade launcher. You can close breaches with it. You can close things like that with it. You can destroy robot factories with it. I never used it, but I've played around with it a little bit, but I never seriously used it. It's a grenade launcher. I mean, it's your box standard grenade launcher. The guard dog rover, love this thing. It's a backpack equipment so it'll fill your backpack slot, and you'll get either a rover that has a laser weapon or a gun, depending on the one you pick. And it is like a little drone that'll follow you around and help defend you. Really good against both the bots, the lower level bots, and most of the bugs. and very good against those shrieker bugs that can fly. Patriot exosuit, because supply pack is literally just extra ammo. It's just bigger ammo reserves. So that
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. Patriot exosuit is that you get yourself a mech basically with a
Oh,
rocket
yeah.
launcher on one side and a 1,000 round chain gun on the other.
Yeah, this is like sometimes Mosen have suits like this. Then you have the Martian Germans. Then you kind of go this Brotherhood of Steel route. It tends to fluctuate between all these different styles, even the mechs from the other machines. So yeah, it's very similar to a lot of stuff SSP. All the what you're saying with stuff was basically SSP related too. So
It's good, but if it blows up and you're still in it, you're dead. Orbital laser. You get 3 of these per game. There's a cooldown in between each one, but they will shoot for 30 seconds and they will literally target any enemy in their area. Really good. Great for taking out base areas. But if it's only really worth it for one member of your team to take this. If everybody's got them, you will not be able to have enough equipment for everything going on.
mm.
Orbital Railgun Strike. Recently, I found this does wonders against the Bile Titans, the big four-legged bile spewing boss Terminid. Uh, it will so you throw it down. It's a giant railgun that shoots from orbit, and it'll target the largest enemy nearby. So it's always going to target the biggest threat.
Okay. That's like the weapon they have in the SSP called Thor's Hammer, where it just drops down this big metal rod, or also they call it Hammer of God. Drops it down. It's like a meteorite strike kind of thing. It goes after big base threats and things of that nature. So yeah, uh,
The Eagle Airstrike is a bog standard airstrike, but it's great. Everyone uses it because of how efficient it is. Um, but it is just a bog standard airstrike. So, but it's amazing. I highly recommend. It's one of the first stratagems you'll get access to, and I recommend taking it every single time. There's not a mission I go in without this one, except for small course quarters missions where it doesn't do anything.
hmm.
The Eagle Cluster Bomb. This is the one you use to fuck with your friends. It'll
Okay.
drop a cluster bomb in an area, and it'll either take out your friends or just throw them all over the place. So, but I don't use it. I don't really use it. My buddy uses it to annoy us though. The Eagle 500 kilogram bomb is basically a personal nuke that you can drop and take out big targets or a lot of little targets. It's good. I take it. Auto cannon sentry. In defending an area missions, it's wonderful. In missions where you're the offensive, you're offensive, don't take it. Mortar sentry, again, same sort of situation. In defense missions, it's great. In offense missions, it's not great. The stalwart is a light machine gun that you can call in. I've never really used it. I've used it in situations where I found it already dropped in the world and I had lost my main heavy weapon, and that's the only time I've ever used it.
Mm.
The recoilless rifle is a different type of heavy of rocket launcher with a backpack, and you have to have a buddy help you reload it, but you get multiple shots out of it. The laser cannon is just a big heavy laser, shoulder mounted laser rifle. It's good. It used to be better. It's not very good anymore. The flamethrower now is one of the best weapons in the game. But for taking out the bugs, if you have the right upgrades to your ship, it's amazing. But I mean, it's got the drawbacks of a flamethrower, so don't walk around while using it. Really, if you walk forward while using it, you're going to set yourself on fire, and you can set your teammates on fire. So it's a flamethrower. It's a flamethrower. The jump pack. The jump pack, I really like. You can get to areas of the map other people can't. You can get to areas of the map certain enemies can't. You can get away from groups of enemies quickly. I like using it. Not everybody likes using it. A lot of people will take the guard dog rover or the shield generator over it. But if I'm fighting the bugs, I like using the jetpack. Orbital precision strike. Well, again, this is the first stratagem you'll have when you start the game, and it is an orbital strike, just one big bomb. It's not huge; it's just like an average bomb. You call it in, and it's used to take out bigger enemies that you'll face in the beginning of the game. It's not great. As soon as you have access to other stuff, don't use it. The Eagle 110 millimeter rocket pods. I've been playing around with these a bit because they're free right now. So you pick your equipment before you go into each mission. They've just been giving us these to mess around with because they want to either make them better. I think they want to make them better, so they're letting us mess around with them. I've used them to attack enemy facilities, but that's it. Or take out a couple enemies. They're not great. The napalm strike, good against the bugs, useless against the bots. It's a napalm strike like in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket Sentry, it's okay. I don't really like it. There's too much splash damage that can hurt other things, but that are allied. EMS Mortar Sentry. This thing in defense missions is a great asset, especially when paired with a normal Mortar Sentry. The EMS Mortar Sentry, especially to both the bots and the bugs, will freeze them in place. The bugs have a weakness to electromagnetic fields, and the bots do, and they will freeze in place, and then a normal Mortar Sentry can just hit them. You put a couple of these down in those defense missions, you will have a good base set up. The Gatling Sentry. I like the Gatling Sentry in defense missions as well. The sentries are really good in defending and early game missions. Once you get to higher end missions, they're just too slow and they don't move, so they can't help you much. The machine gun, one of the first ones you get, it's a belt fed heavy machine gun. Looks like an MG42. High recoil, but it's all right. It's good to use, especially when you're early game. The spear. I have not touched the spear. I've heard that it's decent at taking out those walkers, but it's just not something I've used. The anti-material rifle. It is basically a big sniper rifle, and it has just gotten a buff, and apparently it's really good at taking out bots now. Orbital Gatling Barrage, haven't used it. Orbital Airburst, I've used it. It's like a big shotgun blast that above your enemies takes
Mm-hmm.
out weaker enemies. Orbital Walking Barrage, haven't used it. Never seen anyone use it. Orbital EMS, never seen anyone use it. Smoke, I've seen people use, and I always question why. Because usually your enemies can see through smoke better than you can.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Orbital Gas, I've only ever died to orbital gas. I've never seen anything die to it, but I've died to it. Machine gun sentry. This is the first sentry gun you'll get. Early game missions, go for it. Shield generator. On defense missions to defend where the helicopter extraction thing, which is really more like a pelican from Halo. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it's also called a pelican, which is like why I can't really I don't know how else to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like a gunship. Uh, to defend where that lands when you're about to extract is good, but otherwise don't use it. Anti-personnel minefields and the incendiary mines. Again, if you're on defense missions, they're cool, but also they'll kill your teammates a lot.
I have a funny feeling they might remove and add new stuff over time. There's always some weapons that people hate using in games from Halo to like even back when Duke
I don't think
Nukem
they're
was
going to take anything
downloaded.
away. I think they're just going to add new stuff and try to make stuff better and work
That's
better.
true, and add and update things. Yeah, yeah, that's true enough.
Uh, the ballistic shield is absolutely freaking useless. It's meant to be like a riot shield, but nobody runs. I've never seen anyone use this thing. The orbital 120 millimeter and 380 millimeter barrages. If you want to kill all your friends and make sure an area is flattened completely, take this. But I used to use 380 just to piss people off, but that was the only reason why. The heavy machine gun emplacement. Now, people say it's garbage. On defense missions, I love it. You can rip through lower defense enemies with this thing like they're nothing. Same thing with the Tesla Tower. The Tesla Tower is really good on the new defense missions. Before they were useless. Now they have a use and they're fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they updated it apparently. Yeah, no, it's
Yep.
a
And the last stratagem, the newest one, that's why it's not on this list, is the quasar cannon. A lot of people, like everyone, runs the quasar cannon. It is a electric based rocket launcher essentially. So it's got unlimited ammo because it just needs to cool off. It can take out the charging um, terminids, the charger terminids, in one
Mhm.
headshot. It can take out most enemies in like three shots, even the big guy, the biggest ones. It's got a long cooldown though. Depending on the environment, on hot planets, it can take upwards of like 30 seconds to cool down. On cold planets, it can take like 5 seconds to cool down. It is lovely to
Hmm.
use. It's so fun. But the reason why I take the railgun instead of this when I'm facing bots is because I can take out just as many enemies or more with my railgun while my friends have this for the bigger threats.
Hmm.
With the bugs, I always take this because the railgun's useless against the bugs, and I haven't found anything that works better than this to take out bug bosses.
Hmm. That's interesting.
So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that if you get this game or have this game, get this thing as quickly as you can. So there you
Okay. Yeah,
go.
I'm definitely gonna have to play this. Yeah, I'm
This
definitely
it
gonna
that
play this
that was Helldivers. A little intro to it. The lore, the reason why this has been more lore about the enemies and technology and aliens and stuff is because Super Earth has been fairly. It's still very hard to understand what is going on with Super Earth. They don't give out much information about Super Earth. And the first game, all we know is that they had a World War III scenario. Then we went into space and started spreading managed democracy after Sweden took over. That's kind of all we know about it.
one. Yeah, that's where the propaganda lies in this because yeah, it that is so much like some of the narratives I've been seeing floating around in the insider circles and stuff like that. This is just kind of a kind of throw together version of that, like a generic blue pill kind of version of this, you know. So yeah, I find it very very interesting. Like I said, I'm going to have to try this now. This seems to me, I have this feeling this is going to be like the next hit, real big hit like Halo, like what you were saying, it's taking
Oh
off.
yeah,
So
there's even whole YouTube channels right now that'll do like news updates for people that may have missed a day of playing to see what went on in the Galactic War.
okay, yeah, that's interesting. How they're adding in almost verbatim like what you're hearing a lot of these insiders saying, because you know somebody's getting the writing team is getting it from this or from an insider or has somebody on their team. That's usually how it works with these writing teams. They'll either have somebody get some suggestions from somebody that's come in a suit, or there's on the writing team there's somebody that's in the know that's kind of playing dumb. That's like I just came up with this idea. So sometimes that can happen. Not every time, but sometimes this can happen when you come up with these types of things. Were you going to do gameplay today, or was it
We can if you want. I could
okay?
try. I don't know how well this will work because I've never tried it with this game.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
I'll do the channel portion, and you can make an attempt at that then. Mm, mm,
let
what was
me
that?
try to like mess around with this while you're starting to get into the channel.
Okay. Uh, I know there was this during this. If people saw me doing this, there was some major vocal cord like interference trying to come in like right centered on this part, right on the vocal cords, right through here, where I could feel like pinch at the bottom. That usually means somebody doesn't want you to talk while you're doing this. And I noticed these weird attachments coming in. So it's usually when you've hit a nerve or a tripwire somewhere energetically or information tripwire that the AI hears somewhere. Like how when the FBI and CIA created word tripwires for canceling people or targeting people, something like that. It's an etheric tripwire in that very kind of similar thread. But I know Isaac was the one that was going to talk about this. You know, big surprise. You know, it's SFP related. So yeah. But let's see. Oh yeah, that was weird. If anybody felt like if sometimes if you feel like a thumb on your vocal cords or like a pinch, something was like not wanting you to say something. Oh, we got one thing, the pods that you were showing in the very beginning of the episode. SSP uses those quite frequently, and there's an Earth
Yeah, like
First
orbital
group that
drop.
you yeah, the normal drop. Yeah, and you hear a lot of insiders talking about that. Halo also showed it, but there's also an Earth First group that uses them to go the other way to penetrate alien vessels too. So go the other direction. And it's like in Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, the Magog used these pointed things to pierce into vessels and then infiltrate through the tube that was made. Um, so okay, Isaac, did you want to? Hmm? You're gonna have to speak up. Whatever was going on is making you all garbled. But no, I know it's my ability to receive that got garbled. I understand the word smithing. Okay, let me see. That's the distinction. People think, oh, I've been blocked from spirit. Oh, I've been blocked from my guides. No, no, they weren't blocked. Your ability to receive was. So sometimes they're in a frequency that can't be touched. I've also noticed that Isaac, Elaine, invest them sometimes can get zapped, but it takes something fairly potent to do it. So, uh, and if where Elaine and Vessa sit, if they get zapped, that other enemy will get in trouble because they're not supposed to hit introverts worlds. So there's like a treaty there. So yeah, okay. I mhm. Yes, I'll shut up long enough for you to do it. Through the crystal, not my brain. I know you always use my brain. Yes, this is I, Isaac. The reason I chose to enter this conversation is because, yes, he is correct, 110%. This is a Martian German type propaganda, like Masters of the Universe type of propaganda line. Also, what he didn't say is insectoids have also been spotted uh, with this green mist type of weaponry. This was more or less back towards the COVID narrative when that began. He saw even 5 years prior, 4 or 5 years prior, insectoids putting these little triangular nanotech in people's chests. That was laying in wait for what would then be attracted later on in time. It was a slow drip version of that would lead to what happened in 2020. Now, fast forward to now, people are spotting insectoids in a more friendly light in some areas and in a more devious and sometimes even cannibalistic and aggressive light in another. Again, he said you're seeing multiple different species. The ones that were mentioned for the fake alien invasion were more mantid types and spider-esque types, like you saw in the game and also saw in Starship Troopers. And also Mars Invades type of thing with those creepy aliens with the glass helmets and everything. It's all embedded in this particular narrative. Sorry, there is disruption in the vocal energies today because of before. What he did not mention was there was actually insectoid intrusion. Now, what people don't know is some of them have human souls inhabiting them for extras, like you have extras on set or people in costume. It's also a stage crafting by which then they can stream or upload their consciousness via body transfer to some of these insectoid forms. Do these lower grunts, could they get killed that way and die in their actual body? Absolutely. Like in the Matrix, when somebody would die, they die in their body. It's a similar type streaming concept, or they fully transfer them in. These things are happening. Now, out of the galaxy, did our forces push some forces back, like in the game? Yeah, you could say the Martian Germans did this. You could say that in league with the Galactic Federation, ICC interests, business interests, and all around propaganda interests. But the reason that particular timeline will not happen, is because you have multiple factions that don't agree with it. Even if they're out for their own interests, they do not agree with Martian German propaganda. Or else you would all be saying Zikaya and speaking German right now and have implants all in you, and the Earth would have been cold by now. In the multiverse, could that have happened? Yeah, but we're not getting into that. I can just go into questions if you like.
I'm in a meeting. Um, hmm. So, the technology that I've talked about, the orbital drops, the lasers, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Every
Hmm.
one of those pieces of technology exists. in the SSP in some variation or variant. Every one of those that you've seen, even the crappier ones, there are teams of people that say, God, this one sucks, but I love this one. You see that in like Edge of Tomorrow, where you see it favored weapons, or you see in other movies and series where people favor different weapons or techniques or armor. This is exactly what happens out there. Yes.
So do these things in the SSP, because the way they're done in this game is the guy basically has like a an orb that he can like throw, and it'll call in airstrikes on it. It'll call in like equipment drops. It'll do all that kind of stuff. It'll call in reinforcements, and it. I don't know. Have you ever? The best way to explain it is if you're watching modern football these days, the quarterback has like a little tablet thing on his hand, on his like forearm, and he can like go through his playbook and stuff, and then he throws the football based on what he reads there. Same sort of thing here, where they got a little tablet. It tells them how to like what they have to do to call it down. Then they throw the thing and it drops it. Is that accurate?
Exactly 100%, Ryan. Though this is why they have adapted this to sports, because this is a form of disclosure that is taking place. It is a military technique used in both gaming and training, and SSP and military operations. Think of somebody that could operate this same technique that is a football player or a quarterback. Say, then they are looking for recruits. How better to train people to do these things than integrate it into something that everyone watches or nearly everyone watches. This is a training technique that they are trying to find other people that they eventually will want volunteer recruits for some of their narratives. And so this is exactly why this is taking place.
Okay. Another thing is the idea that we have to be hegemon of space. Is that the SSP trying to like get us ready to be like this gung ho people that are trying to take over everything out there?
Yes, they actually depicted this correctly in Star Trek Picard season two, where a balanced universe is a human universe. This is more of a Martian German propaganda tagline, but yes, this is exactly, it is depicted correctly, unfortunately. But there are other factions that do not agree with that and are actually attempting to balance things. Now, you guys make fun of the Earth First group. There is more than one. The one that was depicted in your Star Trek Enterprise that was anti-alien is the same one you guys were mentioning. But he calls them the Fart Squad, which I find hilarious. But in the other instances, there are other military groups and other factions that do not want what is going on with the Martian Germans. But with them trying to be hegemon, as you said, for the galaxy, that's what the Germans were trying to do, to be ahead of the line. This is what they did in World War II. You see, they were basically saying how great they were and how they were going to unite the planet under the master race. This is exactly what's taking place.
Okay. Uh, the idea that a certain race could be farmed as a fuel source has been touched on a bit in like looshing and stuff, but are there races out there that's physical bodies can be turned into like an oil sub like a like a something that could be used in part in place of oil?
Yes, you bet. There are different alien races, insectoids included in this. Or if you broke down the chemical makeup, you could literally refine them into a petroleum fuel source. For example, there are even other humanoid species that have this technique. You have the insectoids, which they're mentioning here. You unfortunately have some Lyran sub races and stuff like that that also have it. You have forest people, unfortunately, that have it. This is why he spotted in an abduction sequence one time some large-headed Orion types selling skins of Lyrans and forest people. This is a thing that happens. Some want some of the more predatory species out there see others as prey, and some can even put it in order for something, and another species will obtain it. Like genetic, there's a couple genetic races, Ebens and like the Camino race from your Attack of the Clones. That's an actual thing where people can order stormtroopers type things and whatnot. Even other robotic ones, other races specialize in AI. But in this instance, there's other races that specialize in a black market in basically grinding up people and turning them into a fuel source. It's essentially like adrenochroming or a Lushing. It's essentially like in your Babylon 5 with one of the races that wanted to create an immortality syndrome. That's more like adrenochrome. That she said that humans would end up basically killing and eating each other just to get the fuel, or get the serum. And the Vorlons or Kosh removed that from the game board because humans weren't ready for it. In this, though, something similar is taking place, but on the negative side, where you have, well, that was also negative, but on this side, where you have some people that are captured, they are literally ground up for the oils in them, but they have to have a particular genomic sequence that either links back to insectoid race, links back to, well, Lyran, because they also have a saurian or lizard or dragon lineage. Cats do. Or you have to have a certain type of hominid link, like either link with a Neanderthalic type species or a cousin thereof, which the forest people fall within. Though humans also have this, being cousins. So some of the unfortunate abducted, other than getting soul shards removed and harvested, or the harvest like you see in Jupiter Ascending, the with the planets being harvested, that's a poke at the Christian harvest, haha, or raw material harvest and humble material. But the oils then could go to certain lubrication and fuel. A lesser example or comedic example would be like in your Futurama, where they had sardine oil that would one drop would lubricate robots forever and ever, and the mother that was in it did not want that to happen because she was capitalist, and the robots would not need a an oil source past that point. There are those sources that would fix the problem permanently out there, but there are capitalists out there that want to continue on the thread that you were talking about too, in the very same fashion as the character in Futurama.
Okay.
And
Is
Jupiter
there
Ascending, yes, Jupiter Ascending as well, where they were selling the soul shards, yes.
okay, so what about the idea of offshoots of humanity that might not have the same political alignment that are out there that are basically seen as rogue by the SSP, the Martian Germans, those groups?
Hmm. Yes, there are many of those actually. There are human-like offshoots. So there's also a place called New Haven where they are descendants of abductees that couldn't be mind wiped, essentially, or mentally memory suppressed and whatnot. Some have alien DNA. There are these that do not agree with the doctrines that are taking place out here, but some can't get near this sector enough to be able to do anything about it. There's other races that do not agree at all with the treaters of the Galactic Federation, are not part of the Galactic Federation. But there's one real hiccup here. There are nuclear weapons pointed outward from the Earth. You know, the Star Wars program? This is essentially what is keeping some of these races away from the Earth. Those are essentially the chains, along with the psionic resonators or psionic dampening pointing one direction. You have nukes pointing the other direction. And some of them have real big gonads coming in to try to disarm several of these. If you were able to disarm the entire assortment at once, you would have other good races coming in that were not a part of any narrative whatsoever. These are these human offshoots that have also left crop circles behind, basically saying, beware of Greeks bearing gifts, like the crop circle that had the gray face on it. That's actually one of these groups that left this, saying there is good out there. There is good that actually fight on your behalf, not to promote saviors, but fight on your behalf, and also actually are for your salvation, pretty much. And not to go into religious doctrine sounding, but you get the idea. There are many planets, like in your Stargate lore, Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis, that are many planets of humans that are also in different stages of development as well. They were seeded all over the place, just like different cultures, like you see in the program, see on those shows. Plus, you have again extremely technologically advanced ones, some do not really care. They want to tend to their own thing, like the Tolan in your Stargate universe, or Stargate, not Stargate universe, but Stargate SG-1, where they were more advanced humans that didn't go through a dark ages, and they wouldn't share the technology for lesser advanced human worlds because they tried it one time and they destroyed themselves, so they created laws for it. You have some that are like that too, and others that just want to get in here to help. Like there is a medical group that he found out went by the name Velodian. These are, or he called them Trisonian, but it goes by Velodian. These guys want to be able to help here, but unfortunately, some answer to the elitist. They're being told they have to go through proper channels. They can't just show up for anybody that's calling to them. And to the rest of the earth, they're known as the soul doctors. You see them in various forms in people's dreams, where they will help out by helping take someone's light body, realign codes where something is hurting, and then or broken, and then they reapply those codes to the person on a light body level, and it'll balance them to a certain degree, but we'll never take them back. And he's noticed this multiple times, and he gets mad about this, where it takes it back to a point of where they are at the moment and not fully heal, because there are treaties involved. In this, they will get in a lot of deep shit if they were to come in here. He says, why don't they just come in here? Again, you got basically a gigantic gun pointed at their head until something changes. And I'm not saying that it's like this forever. This is where co-creation comes in. This is where private little wars and battles happening in the background are taking place.
All right. Well, that does it for my questions. Any final remarks are welcome.
Mm-hmm. He gets mad when he thinks things aren't going fast enough, but there's more to it in basically in heaven and earth that people know of. And the Martian Germans, yes, they do control a lot, but then you have these other factions. Now, if you get a good one that would totally take over, you would see this change pretty damn quick, regardless of what the GF wanted, regardless of what the ICC wanted. Now, the reason you're seeing so many different fluctuations in the theater puppets and all of this, it's because of the fact there are these other factions. Some are out for themselves, like you have the Fart Squad, and then you have other ones that are out, for helping people. But there is a balance between them. Also, he saw in one person's session where somebody had an infestation of bed bugs, but had a singular bed bug that was a robot. That's because the treaties told that particular faction they couldn't come in and abduct these people anymore, so they were being secretive. You're going to see more of those until the treaties align with, or the agreements and contracts align with, you can't use anything at all. Then you're going to start to see any technology at all. Then you're going to start to see some things shift in a good favor in that way, or in the favor of people. But it's actually to be determined of how something's going, because there's so many factions in play. I just had to add that. So thank you.
Okay. Well, that is it for questions on my end. So thank you for your time, Isaac.
Yes, thank you. Always enjoy these. Thank you. So, bye bye. Mm-hmm. And he's right. I did in someone's session did see this person had an infestation of bed bugs, and I brought this up on conspiracy sector as well, where one singular one was a robot or a drone that was taking samples from the bottoms of their feet, and essentially the people's feet, and wondering why there were these prick marks and stuff like that there. It's because they were trying to get around a treaty or a contract of some kind with the other factions that, hey, we don't want you doing this anymore because other ones dominated the territory or the treaties or contracts of the other, and it shifted the balance of power around. Is essentially is what it is. And the electro bioelectric field that the bugs put off, like ticks and bed bugs put off this weird field you can feel if there's a bunch of them around, and especially bed bugs. And I felt this when we had them in our mattress in Granville, where you could just feel when they were around, regardless whether they bit you or not. And one in there was a drone, and it was actually masked by that bioelectric signature. So that's how they got around that. It's like, oh, there's no rules against this. We can have a bunch of bugs, you know, and one of them be the piece of equipment. If they were caught, they would have been creamed. But that's how they got around that. Now that we're talking about these things, it's probably going to shift. Two or more people start talking about a thing, it starts to shift that balance of power again. So that's why I repeat that, so that some of these other factions that we don't even know about that may be good and benevolent are able to shift that around. So I know you wanted to try the game, gameplay here, folks. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we of course won't have it in there. So
This will take me a second to get situated and stuff and for it to start. So I'll be right back.
okay, I always edit. Yeah, just in a second. We haven't done the gameplay portion yet, so. Oh, okay. 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 So I'll start edit here.
Kind of. Okay, here we go. Are you back?
Yep.
All right.
I wonder what the automatons plan on doing with all the cyborgs. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't put it past them to be working together. I never trusted those half-human freaks. Here's what I don't get. Why invade Cyberstan? Nothing there besides a bunch of mines and cyborgs. You ask me, the cyborgs are behind this whole thing. Or maybe the automatons just want to use the cyborgs. Or maybe this is just another distraction and the real attack is still coming.
Yeah, see, they even just said there was like false flag within that. They just said it in the dialogue. Also, the fact the architecture, the way things look and everything is so like with Halo, with also aliens movies, stuff like that. It is all how
has
that
invaded
SSP
Cyberspan and
vibe
its
looks.
surrounding systems. Early reports indicate that this armada may be over 10 times larger than all previously encountered automaton forces. Currently, there is no information about the source of these new automatons or their connection to the automaton forces encountered previously. The unprovoked assault lasted merely hours, quickly overwhelming the relatively undefended planets on the galactic fringe. The President has already issued a response, saying, "This attack occurred as we were nearing a permanent end to conflict with the automatons. Now, it is clear that there can be no peace until every automaton is utterly destroyed." The Helldivers have begun a counteroffensive operation with the ultimate objective of retaking Cyberstan, the apparent base of automaton operations. That's Liberty's latest. I'm Coretta Kelly.
Yes, there's news.
That's interesting. They have that in Star Trek as well, where they have news as well in the future. So, and Babylon 5, any of them, you know. Yeah, like your armor, you have cape and everything. Yeah.
Silver Earth shall not be intimidated by these self-actuated belligerents, no matter their number. Let us meet them head-on, reclaim our dominion, and avenge the memory of innocence lost. What automatons we have faced thus far were but a component of their grand apparatus. A
So
great invasion has
each
invaded the defenseless mining colony of Cyberstan in a craven attack, and now casts its shadow upon the rest of the Federation.
wow. Okay. Each one of these ships is actually a different Helldivers ship.
Oh. Oh, wow.
Actually, I'll go here and I'll show you exactly how many people are playing this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in this sector alone, there's 116,000 people playing the game.
Jesus. Okay.
30,000 are in this sector. 46, almost 47,000 there. Almost 8,500 there. 20,000 here. You're gonna have 12,000 deployed here.
Good
And the
God.
devs, there's 1,000 people on Super Earth, which is the devs, like the development team and people that have access to that.
You know what's really interesting is years ago, I actually saw this kind of layout in my head of how people would gameplay and everything. I attributed this to what they were making at the time. They were attempting to make a Stargate game that was like this, but it didn't pan out. It was defunct after a while. But I would
And
see this
actually,
play on my head. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you can even see, so the fact that that sector has like a little 1 there, that means I have a friend deployed on Osta Une, the planet there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mission coordinates
And I even
locked.
saw it like this where people could deploy on planets and everything. This is exactly how I saw it in my head over the years, and I didn't know what I was seeing.
Understand
Now
and
that you
complete
showed
the
me this
long
is what I was
previous
seeing. This is interesting.
stronghold of the
Somebody was
cyber.
trying to tell me this was coming down the pike.
Perhaps it is no accident that this world has become our target once again.
I even saw it from like the replicators and Stargate. You know, like they're like the automatons to aliens to other human groups. Everything. I was seeing it in my head, but I thought it was attributed to the Stargate universe essentially. But that was defunct. But now you see this game, and it's exactly like the layouts I was seeing. I know I was
Allied
picking up
destroyer has
SSP,
joined squadron.
showing different territories and everything, but I was also seeing in gameplay, and now I know why. It was actually something that was part of the ethers already, and now it's being actualized. I find that fascinating. I
Yeah,
saw that. I get surprised every now and again. This did I when I saw that I'm thinking, okay, this is what I've been seeing the whole time.
sorry, I'm trying to lower the game so that I can hear
Oh, you're
you.
fine. You're fine. Yeah, this is interesting because I would even see it right down to the gameplay. I wonder if they're going to add like. Well, I actually saw multiverse stuff related too, and that's when we went into the Starfield stuff. So that's related too. So
Allied
the
destroyer has
Starfield
joined
material, but
squadron.
both had put together. It seems that I was seeing a timeline where they would create games like this or create outlets like this, either for propaganda or for showing what was actually out there. And this is what happened. I just realized just a few seconds ago, this was all big synchronicity. What you just showed me. So I
Mm-hmm.
find that interesting.
Allied destroyer has joined squadron. Orbit synchronized.
Or one could say that I was seeing it years ago and got it set into the butterfly effect. You know, where you think of something and it starts to set it in motion in different areas too. Other people are probably doing that as well. When you ground something, an idea, it becomes basically public domain via the butterfly effect or source field. So yeah, it's a matter of the etheric physics. Oh, there we go. That's why you have inventors that invent something, then it appears over here, and somebody thought they stole an idea. So,
Yeah.
but it's really the butterfly effect. There's really no way around it. It's etheric physics. Uh,
Calling down a support weapon. Calling down a sentry.
Helldiver, you are moving outside the mission area. Helldiver, you are moving outside the mission area.
Reinforcing.
No, you get to see how you spawn in again, man.
That looked like a Nerf rifle you had for a minute.
Well, I died again.
Helldiver, you are moving outside.
Yeah, that orange rifle looks like one of those Nerf guns.
Oh, yeah, this...
Point me to the enemy. Tunnel breach.
I know nerfed means it's weaker, but still, it looks like a
Yeah. Well, nerf kind of more means like they weaken.
Wait, what?
I can't get a break. I can't get a break.
What did you say that
nerf,
meant?
Nerf means like that in like a patch they weakened it.
Oh, okay. Dang.
I'm just not playing good today.
Well, it looks like it's a pain in the ass, is what it looks like, so.
Tunnel breach. Sending in an eagle.
What I found rather stupid was one of the insiders said in a fake alien invasion, people would afterwards become bug haters after a while. It's like, yeah, create a new prejudice. That's great. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I always thought that was retarded.
Activating jump pack. Requesting sentry. Calling down a sentry. Requesting sentry. Requesting air support. Supplies, bugs, northeast. Requesting air support. Liberty, save me! Calling down a sentry. Requesting sentry. Requesting sentry. 2 canisters. Canister's empty. New canister. Requesting orbital strike. Activating jump
Mission
pack.
at 10 minutes remaining.
Okay, that one killed you. I thought the other one did for a second, but
No, it was one of the mortar
Calling in reinforcements!
strikes that killed.
Back empty!
where all the bugs were just like on you.
No, I healed while they were on me, so I wouldn't die.
Extract when ready.
There's stim packs, kind of like in Fallout. Little.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. Isaac, I just heard saying you were getting gang raped by insectoids. Yes, okay. Yeah.
Pelican 1 landing in progress.
Well, and there are mindless drone-like ones like this too, where they are like scorpion types too. I forgot to say that. There are ones that are feral-like too,
Throwing
so, like,
grenade!
that are extremely hard to beat. And some of the insiders said that they were a pain in the ass on other planets because they could asexually replicate, and they were a pain in the ass.
Calling down a sentry.
Just like machines can self-replicate, you have the scorpion types that are like cells dividing kind of thing. But they're not machines.
Calling down a sentry. Another sample collected for democracy.
Countdown initiated. Stand by for takeoff.
I don't know why these guys aren't like getting out.
What the hell? So
Extraction complete. Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
it's also like the Brotherhood of Steel's vessel as well. It kind of reminds me of them a little bit, and also in Halo as well. So yeah, a lot of this is similar. The reason you're seeing similar things or the same things across multiple mediums, that means it's a true depiction. When you see that, when you see the same thing being said across multiple things or similar, it means it's a true story or a truth that's being said. It goes with shows, movies, etc., genres, cross genres. If they cross genres from things, it's the same thing. It means it's true. So that's interesting.
You secured a lot of samples. Well done. Everyone knows Cyberstan has been a rehabilitation facility for the cyborgs since the First Galactic War. What a lot of people don't realize is just how many patriotic citizens it takes to keep an operation like that afloat. We will avenge every last one of them.
Ready for another mission, Helldiver? The Helldivers received their orders from the Ministry of Defense, and I mine from the Ministry of Truth. In this way, the hands of liberty are intertwined.
God, what a
We
puke.
operation complete.
That's funny.
Initiating FTL jump to the Vernon Wells system.
That's also how they show in the Star Trek Picard series when they warp the ships. They show it instead of the classic Star Trek, warp. They show it like that now, which I find interesting. That's closer to probably how it looks. More likely. Oh, I just got a yes to that. So that's how the jumps look.
Allied destroyer has left.
Because it's a frequency thing where you just lock onto a frequency of somewhere else and then align it here and then zip. So You're not really moving. It's like you're moving the frequency space around you, and then you end up appearing over there, kind of thing. Or stick to it. Yeah, that's probably why they changed it, because it was closer to how it really looked. Really, instead of like the star pattern going around.
Launch initiated.
So I did one bugs, and this will be one bots mission.
Also, the problem with warping is like it's also they'd have to align it so that you wouldn't time warp on top of it with the distance between planets either, because it would be like hundreds of years pass in the time you'd go at light speed. So they'd have to find a way around that too.
Yeah.
Which they did. So, they showed that in Stargate Atlantis, where an ancient ship had been traveling for 10,000 years. That's because they were going at light speed, and it was instant from their perspective.
Check back inbound.
They die for democracy.
Calling down a sentry. Calling down a sentry.
Interesting.
Sentry. Calling down a support weapon.
Jesus.
Reloading. Reloading.
Allied destroyer joining squadron, deploying Helldiver to combat zone.
Throwing grenade.
Request approved. Deploying reinforcements.
Sending in an eagle.
Unleashing democracy.
I like that. Spreading democracy. Yeah, I heard that in the background. That's like when you played any of the Star Wars games and you played the Empire. They're like spreading order through the galaxy. Yeah.
Throwing supply beacon. Reinforcing!
Killed by meat saw. Okay.
Joining the fray. Requesting sentry. Calling down a sentry.
Request approved. Reinforcements have been launched.
vehicle!
Pelican 1 preparing to depart. Shuttle launch in 20 seconds.
Requesting air support! Reloading!
Extraction complete. Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
You have maintained our way of life.
Interesting.
Fast mission is a good mission. Welcome aboard. The
Destroyer
Galactic
has
War
left
needs
squadron.
The bridge is yours, Helldiver. Take us to the fight.
So that was a little taste of Helldivers and what it's like to hell dive.
That's actually very, very interesting. Yeah, there's so many, again, like Halo with so many SSP parallels. It's not even funny, the fact that they've integrated it that much. That's very interesting. While we were playing, you know how Isaac sometimes, when you're playing a game, he'll say, "You're going to die," or something like that.
Mhm.
He was doing that to you, like with the bugs coming at you. He goes, "Oh, you got gang raped by a bunch of insectoids," stuff like that. And then as I was drinking my tea, he was trying to convince me that I swallowed a bug in my tea a minute ago. But because back in Granville, I had my tea cup sitting on the floor and walked over to it to pick it up one time, and there was a dead roach kind of hovering upside down in the tea. So though he was trying to convince me because I swallowed a lemon seed and some pulp that was in there. So he was again trying to play practical jokes on both sides here. So like his usual self, to try to screw us up in some fashion while both filming and also in the game. So like just like you said one time when you were playing the game, he goes, "You're gonna die," that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
he does it to me all the time. I play Assassin's Creed Valhalla. He pulls the joke on there, Hogwarts Legacy. "Oh, you're gonna die," all this other stuff. So yeah, so I have a funny feeling he's gonna do it when I get that game. But I believe this is a good place to take us out. Ryan, do you have anything to add to the show?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, this has been an excellent show. Very enlightening for me because it was synchronistic to other stuff. I'd been seeing a lot of it, and fiction. It will come through in fiction for people that are getting their memories back. Some things will come through in fiction as well. I've seen that multiple times. It did it to me before I got some SSP memories back. So with that said, it's a safer way of bringing it back without causing brain damage. So with that said, I now close this circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Thank you, everybody. This was great.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Interestingly enough, just afterwards, I mentioned the Blair Witch Project and all this other stuff in there. The AI brought up something in my feed, not on Facebook, but just what I get from Google about the reboot of the Blair Witch Project. That and what I mentioned about the video game scenes I was seeing in my head over the years, I had that I thought was imagination, which it was really SSP. Remembering how the interfaces worked, how graphic interfaces work, like in Star Wars, Star Trek, you're seeing battle plans, tactical, all this, but I was seeing games play out where I was playing the part of the replicator, I was playing the part of the Earth Force, I was playing the part of the aliens, I was playing the, and even recently I was seeing stuff where I was like in Stargate, SG-1, they had a triangular parallel universe portal they would use to go into the multiverse. I was seeing myself, even if I got defeated in one, I could replicate into a different one. The replicators were AI, like the ones in the game. Similar. I've seen this for years since I was a teenager. I now know it's SSP related, and also I was seeing this interface in the Benevolent Creators source field, and it trickled back. And also I was getting stuff from my own past. It seemed like it was ahead, but behind me, because it was past. But I was also picking up on this. So everything's all interconnected, past, present, and future. It's all happening, everything, everywhere, all at once, even though there is time. That's where the metaphysical and New Age people got it wrong. There is time. People have time travel. It just doesn't work how people think. It's more like Loki, more like Marvel, more like time tracks with the parallel timelines, but also not as fragile as you see in Multiverse of Madness in the multiverse, or in Star Trek, where like the Lazarus effect, where it was like a collision between matter and antimatter. It's not that fragile, even though there are incursions. So I'll stop. That's more the Multiverse of Madness material, but you get what I'm saying. I was picking up on this. So it is, over the years. And I didn't realize it until today. It's a big synchronicity that kind of wormed its way out here. You say all in divine timing. Well, I guess this applies. It's cliche, but you understand what I'm saying. Cliche sounding. So it is 12:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, April 21st, 2024. Thank you.
What's interesting about the Helldivers game? I just saw this thing pop up on Facebook where you could buy real estate on Mars, or go off into space and buy real estate and things of that nature. That's kind of along those same lines. I've been seeing this same theme pop up, but again, when things pop up within multiple mediums, like you have aliens, you have Firefly, you have all those things where it all looks relatively the same out in space. Even future areas in Doctor Who, where you see humanity out in space, it's the same thing. Like from salvage crews to pirates to galactic Federation ship crews. Also, Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. If you go even further back in time, it's supposed to be hundreds of thousands of years in the future, and then where Dylan Hunt is, but further back, only about 10 to 12,000 years ahead. It's like you have this big Federation space fleet, like Earth Space Federation type thing. So yeah, and also not to mention Star Trek and Star Wars. You see all those types of things, from the Republic to the Empire to the Federation and Star Trek, all of that. So, but these type of synchronicities keep popping up in multiple mediums, across multiple mediums, means when the same theme pops up, it's truth that's being said. I mean, anything public is narrative, like the channeling of Chadwick Boseman said, but you know what I'm saying. There's something that is still being said, kind of like on the Ghost Box, where you do have something that crosses multiple radio stations. Think of this as crossing multiple mediums, but it's the same message. Either it's propaganda. It goes one of two ways. It's either propaganda or it's real. The same, but it's still a thing. It's like on the Ghost Box. It's still a thing. It could be a lie or the truth, or a combination of the two. There's a third. There's the yield involved with what's out there. Same thing with the Ghost Box. Same thing with channeling. All of it. It could be one of those three categories. So, I will end this here. It is 7:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Thank you. If you want to get a good idea of the whole sequence of events, the order of operations, when it comes to a couple of bits of disclosure from Halo to Helldivers, the order of operations is, if you want the current narrative of what they want to plan, Helldivers. If you want what they've already done, Halo. A little bit with what they're planning, but order of operations, what they've done, SSP-wise, Spartan program, super soldiers, all of it. Halo. Also, the narrative for World War III and fake alien invasion, Helldivers. Even the ruling from Sweden point, like they did in the Amadeus Enoch material. So, that is where I'm at. It is 9:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Thank you.